Today, I have someone very, very inspirational and who I've been very inspired by, very honestly, who's a young guy, 25-year-old. He's an IT engineer, he's a mountaineer, he's a backpacker, he's an adventure junkie. He talks about sustainable energy, and he's actually on his way to climbing Mount Everest. He's doing it with a difference. He'll actually be among the very few, or among the first expeditions in India to be completely carbon neutral. And again, something which probably has never been done before. And there are a lot of important stories that we can sort of learn from him, his experiences, what keeps him going. So without much ado, I'd like to introduce you to Harshvardhan Joshi. And he's with me today on the podcast. So over to him. So Harsh, finally, good to see you. I know we've had a lot of conversations on WhatsApp, on Zoom calls, on LinkedIn. Actually, that's how we started conversing. But I'm so glad to finally see you here at the Shebang office to have a very interesting conversation today. I think Harsh, your story has been extremely inspiring to me also. I've of course read a lot about you. I've read your website. I've gone through your past content, and you are a big source of inspiration to today's youth, right? Coming to where you are today and what you want to do in life, my first question actually is about typically when as we're growing up, we're always told that you've got to get a good degree, you've got to finish your education, then you've got to find a good well-paying job, probably do a post degree as well, then again find a good job after that, probably get married, have a family. But I think at a very young age you decided to do things differently. If you can just tell us a bit about your story, how did you come to where you are right now?
So first of all, thank you so much for all your encouragement and kind words. And to be honest, I am more fortunate to connect with you and Shivan. You guys came like an angel in my life, and especially in my campaign, Sangharsh Mission Mount Everest, how we all connected.
Yeah.
And about me, for the ones who are listening and who don't know me, I'm a 25-year-old millennial. I am an IT engineer. Before people think of me as a mountaineer or something, I come from a lower middle class family, and I studied IT engineering from Mumbai University. I was gonna go for an first my plan was MS in US, the easiest way to aim for a better life for any average Indian.
Right.
And then I was gonna go for an MBA in marketing,
Okay.
but now I'm into outdoors and mountaineering full time, and I'm aiming to Mount Everest. So the way it started was when I was 15. I started selling computers just to be independent after
Okay.
graduating, after completing my 10th. And back then, I met a group of doctors from my town, Vasai near Mumbai. They would hike a lot, and they invited me for a hike to a place where I train almost every day now. In fact, I was there now a few hours ago, Tungareshwar Wildlife Sanctuary. And back then, they would, this was in 2010, 2011, 2011. So they would cycle, they would hike with a hydration bladder, with a camel back.
Right.
And 127 hours was released around that time, and we were really smitten by that. Me and my partner, we teenage kids, we were like, wow, these guys are pros. Like they cycle non-stop for 40 minutes or so, 5-6 kilometers. But we were like, wow. And back then during that hike, they asked me that, hey, do you want to come to Everest? I was like, how expensive is it? They were like 70,000. I'm like, no, 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 I cannot afford that. Although I was making decent money back then,
70,000?
rupees, 70,000 rupees.
Okay.
So there is a surprise to that.
Okay.
And for next 3-4 years, I was busy with my startup and then getting into engineering and all other teenage trends, materialistic goals. And I would tell all my friends that my friends are have climbed Everest. My doctor friends, they are all 50 plus age group, but people, my mom would tell me no कि बेटा वो लोग सिर्फ बेस कैम्प गए होंगे, but I would tell her that no, those guys are pros, they use high end equipment and they must have been to the summit. They spent 70,000 rupees.
Right.
And I didn't even know what's base camp back then. I wanted to travel all my life, but my family never took me anywhere. They themselves never traveled. So during second year of engineering, I was bored from past 3-4 years, and I saw someone's Facebook post about a beautiful landscape somewhere in the Himalayas, and just to make a conversation, I asked, hey, where is this, what is this? And she told me that I went for this backpacking trekking expedition with an organization just for 4,000 rupees for 10 days. I was like, wow, that's dirt cheap. And then I looked up the website, and because I couldn't find any company those days to travel with me, like my friends' parents either won't give them the permission to go outside, or they couldn't afford it, and they were not independent. And then I thought that why not solo, and that's how this began. I dropped one message on Facebook to one of these doctors who took me on my first hike 3-4 years ago, and they invited me to the hospital. They told me that okay, you should read a lot about it. They gave me a few books, they lended me their gear, and they told me that exercise, maybe climb a few hills around with a heavy backpack. So I would train at a temple on a hilltop near my house. And when I went for my first trek, I was sort of over prepared compared to everyone else, although they were more experienced trekkers. But I was really passionate, and actually I was going there just for the thirst of travel and exploration, not adventure.
Right.
I booked a 1 week trek, but I spent 40 days before and after to explore those two states. So I booked two trekking destinations since it was so affordable. One was a desert trekking expedition near Jaisalmer for 5 days, and another was in Uttarakhand, a 14,000 feet Himalayan snowy peak.
Okay.
So and between those two expeditions, I wanted to cover those states and backpack a lot. So that is how it started, and later I started going there after every semester. Like just after I returned from that expedition, someone told me one of the doctors told me that why don't you take up a mountaineering course. I didn't know what's that. I just looked it up. I told my mom that hey, I'm going for it, and surprisingly she knew about that institute. She reads a lot and she's more aware, so she was like, yeah, go for it. So I went for that 1 month mountaineering course, and even during those times I would spend 1 month before that and 1 month after that in different Himalayan states, backpacking, climbing, testing my skills which I have learned there, putting them to use. And
So sorry to cut you. So when did your goal go from being at the base camp to actually going to the summit of Mount Everest?
since the time I started, like
Okay.
around maybe 2015, when I started trekking and climbing, whatever I get into, I want to do it
To the best.
yeah, I want to do it passionately, and that means going to the epitome of it. So not I won't say that I am a professional or something or a pro, like competitive level, but passionately I would like. And whoever gets into outdoors, who doesn't want to test the view from the highest point on earth? Most people give up the dream. I now realize that so many people have the potential, and anyone can go if they are ready to put in the work.
Correct.
It's not as difficult. The first step, taking the decision. So it was never that difficult for me to decide that I want to climb Everest. But back then, I thought that I would do it 10, 20 years later,
Correct.
because it's a very big expense, and I might never be able to afford it. I was just a 18, 19-year-old
And it's
kid.
not a 70,000 rupee expense, it's
No,
a
no,
50 lakh
50
rupee
lakh
expense.
rupees.
So how did you get yourself mentally conditioned to the fact that, you're giving up your education and finding a good job as well, and then convincing your family that, I'm going to train to sort of be at the summit of Mount Everest, and of course having to raise that much money, because I know you don't have that money right now in your bank sitting to spend 50 lakh on Mount Everest. So
Even people who have it don't
do it, right?
Yeah, don't spend it
So,
on something.
so how was
like
that journey of convincing your parents, telling them that this is what I want to do?
Actually, that was the easiest part.
that's
They
good.
told me that do whatever you want, just don't ask us for money.
Money,
Yeah, in fact, they are very happy, they are proud, and they would support me. But since I am independent since I was 15, so they don't say much. The entire life they would tell me ki 10th में अच्छे marks लाओ फिर you are free. So and then 12th. So वो कब तक खींचेंगे? And then I started earning. So now and I completed my education. Yeah, I tell all my engineer friends who are still, some of them are still students. I tell them कि मेरे जैसा लड़का जो कभी कॉलेज गया भी नहीं, if he can get through engineering and somehow I completed in 4 years because I value time a lot. And then I was gonna go for an MBA. I appeared for most MBA entrances in India: CAT, CMAT, SNAP, MyCat, you name it. And my dream was that back then my plan was I would do MBA in marketing because that is also one of the skills which I already have, and I would like to enhance it and bring it to you. So my dream was I would be a brand manager for something like the North Face, which is one of the best outdoor brands.
Adventure brand.
Yeah, or something as small as Decathlon. Decathlon is also pretty big, but it's not so much into mountaineering. So I thought I would be a brand manager for them, and all that rosy picture that all I have to do is climb and stuff, test day. And when I was gonna go to one of the premier B schools, I saw that the investment, the fees is 20 lakh rupees. For which I have to take an education loan. And I just thought I was planning all my further mountaineering courses like search and rescue and advanced mountaineering courses in such a way that I can fill it in with my education. And that's why I even took a gap year after my engineering to finish one of my courses and climb more mountains. But after spending so much time in Ladakh and all the other Himalayan regions, I had those realizations that the goals which I'm chasing, they are maybe nowhere relatable to happiness, and I might regret. So rather, when I have the time and age, and there are a lot of opportunities in the Himalayas. I met a lot of friends who are doing great, who quit their corporate jobs and went there. And most of them are happy, and many of them are making more than I would ever make in any corporate jobs, engineers and MBAs. And my friends in Mumbai or in US who are or were in the dream positions that I aspire to be, people like you, they told me that no, your life is better in the Himalayas, so just keep doing.
I still believe so.
Yeah, just keep doing what you are doing, and we will try to support you, but start something of your own. And my parents were also very supportive ki don't do an MBA, rather start a trekking company of your own or do anything. And I knew that I want to do an MBA just for the security, that in future it would be easier to go back to something. But then it never ends. Like if I do an MBA, they would be like, just try taking up a job. Then I would take that average CTC, whatever, 8, 10, 15 lakh. And when I think of quitting, they will give me an increment, and I have my education loan. So I'll never be able to become a farmer if I want to.
Okay. So it's almost like equating this cost of this expedition to cost of an MBA, but also learning as much as you can, right?
Yes. So that was the plan. I thought that let's finish my Everest goal because life is only gonna get busier.
Right.
And I asked few of my friends who are like 45-year-old and they climbed Everest and they are at very good positions in the corporate. So I asked them that, does it get easier? They were like, no, it only gets difficult.
Absolutely,
maybe the finance gets slightly easier, but the sooner I do, I can implement those life lessons. And I thought that I'll make the same investment for Everest, and while raising funds, while preparing for it, it will be just a very good substitute, if not better than an MBA. Like while selling myself, I intended to learn just marketing, and while climbing Everest, I would learn a lot of life lessons. But now I'm also learning a lot of other stuff.
I'm guessing finance, PR, marketing, of course, operations,
and then science in my training, physiology. And to be honest, now I am excited that after Everest, few years later or 10 years later, I would want to go in a corporate just for some time, just to experience, implement this, and I will like to be a cool boss for them.
Fair enough. So also coming back to your expedition, it's not like any other, right? You've actually championed and you're taking forward a cause which is very, very close to you, which is about solar and creating awareness about solar energy, right? It's slated to be among India's first carbon neutral expeditions to the summit of Mount Everest. When did solar and when did this entire thought of minimalism, minimalistic living sort of come to you, and why did it come to you? When did that apparition sort of come to you?
So when I was a teenager, when I was an engineering student, I was very materialistic. I would shop a lot. I was addicted to consumerism, and then from my travels, I had those realizations that less is more. If you see, in 2015, my backpack on a trip weighed 55 kgs. On the next trip, it might be
That's
45.
almost your weight. 55
Yeah,
kg is your
yeah,
weight.
yeah. That was the kind of weight I was carrying. One behind and one more backpack, and sometimes a handbag as well.
Right.
And now it must be like 35 kgs. Now also it gets heavier, but because of some mountaineering equipment. But after spending time in the Himalayas, I realized that less is more, and most of the stuff which I procure or consume do not give me long-term happiness. It's just like it's just an illusion. So later I realized that this concept is called minimalism, but I was learning those lessons from my travels and everything. So I became a minimalist. Like since since past 5-6 years, I haven't purchased any clothes. I
Oh,
rarely
really?
buy. Yeah, I'm lucky that way that brands keep sending me stuff, but that also I accept only something which I'm gonna bring to use. And most of the time I am in my athleisure wear, like because I have a workout in the morning and the evening, and I like to stay in a comfortable wear. So that was about clothes, but in everything I try to keep it as simple as possible, consume less, and invest other resources like my time and energy in experiences.
So how does solar power and solar energy become? Because again, we have wind, we have other forms of energy. But when does solar become your passion?
So when I decided to climb Everest, almost everyone who climbs Everest supports a cause with it, like
Right.
to create awareness about something, or most of the time it is something, to be honest, for PR, some cause which is trending. Like for example, like if I want government funds, I would do something like Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao. So I wanted to pick something which I can relate to, which I can feel for, and something which I think would solve a lot of problems. So one thing which I primarily care for is animal health care, but that is something which most of the people won't relate to, because anyways the human health care is not that great, at least in our nation. So animal lives have no value, and even if I try to create, it won't do justice to the attention which we get and the impact which we want to create. So second thing which I care about is sustainable development.
Okay.
And like United Nations have 17 sustainable development
Goals,
goals defined. One of them is renewable energy, and I think that renewable energy, especially solar, can solve a lot of problems, not just climate change, not looking at it just from environmental perspective, but social economic perspective. So I don't want people to switch to solar because they love earth or they care for the environment, but for their own benefits. And that thing which I'm trying to create by this expedition, like I'm gonna be completely solar, but it's more about creating that awareness, setting that example that hey, if that guy can try to stay clean at the most versatile environments on earth, then what are the changes which we can create while making more thoughtful choices in the urban environment. So
Right.
I will calculate the carbon offset created by not using other traditional sources of energy during my expedition.
Right.
And I'll try to motivate them that hey, these are the numbers. Maybe I would save just 3 or 5 trees, but that is also a lot.
Of course.
And if they make a change, like if you guys make a change in urban environments or in your residence, like if a family of 4 goes completely solar, then you don't need, you will save money and everything, but over 30 years it is equivalent to planting a 9-acre forest. without
Wow.
spending a single rupee, without buying land. The
Right.
carbon offset is so much.
Right.
So that is how this
You
began.
picked
And
solar as your
yeah,
as a
because
cause.
it helps the environment, it helps the social and economic, like villages in Ladakh and Nepal, many remote regions which don't have electricity,
Right.
they don't have education, they don't have healthcare, and they lose 12 hours of their day. But when you have electricity, it solves a lot of problems, but the traditional electricity takes a lot of time to come, and those villages don't even have roads, and still it takes decades at first electricity, then education, then healthcare, then employment. But if you have off-grid solar systems, then everything comes at once, and it gives them democracy, that you have your own natural resource
Correct.
and you can invest, expand as much as you want.
Correct. So you feel like everything starts by having access to energy. In this case,
Yes,
could be solar.
it is very important. And
And that's how
after the
communities are built.
pandemic,
Yeah.
we all know, and now since it's the generation of internet, so
Yeah.
a lot of things can be solved there, and we can see changes up there. Like some people would say that they are better off this way, but when you have a healthcare emergency and stuff, you realize that how important it is to have. They don't even have basic communication. So solar would uplift them. Like this is a cause which I think which would solve many different problems. Otherwise, everything was very cliche or niche.
Right.
But this is like a holistic approach to solving most of the sustainable development goals and everything.
So actually taking a step back to, while you're going to be also climbing, you'll be carrying a lot of heavy equipment with you. Of course, one is the trekking equipment, your mountaineering equipment, plus along with that, a lot of the solar equipment, right? Panels and which are heavy. Um, how are you training for that? Because I'm assuming you anyway are carrying so much of essentials. Now on top of that, you're also going to be carrying panels on the back of
So
on your back. So
one for the panels, we will have more people, porters, which will also create employment for them.
Right.
They anyways carry a lot of other stuff, some stuff which are not supposed to be
Right.
there, like single-use plastic consumables. So solar panels is something they would be happy to carry, because that is something which I will donate out there after my use.
So are you also going to be carrying some on your back?
Yes, but that every gram matters, but that is hardly 1-2 kgs till the base camp, and above that I'll be using solar panels, so I don't take it as an inconvenience. And about training, I like first I did 9 courses in outdoors and mountaineering over past 5 years, and now I'm following a scientific training plan specifically for Everest. So I'm done with the technical skills, and the scientific training plan is designed by the pioneers in this, who are trying to bring Olympic style training for mountaineering.
Okay.
That we monitor our progress, we rest and recover,
Right.
we check our vitals every day. And I was following that even last year. I have been following it for 1.5 years.
Okay.
Since I was supposed to climb Everest in 2020,
2020, yeah.
but just 15 days before
Before
I was
COVID,
taking off, the pandemic came in, then came the travel ban. So I'm just following the same training plan once again, and in between I was trying some other endurance sports like triathlons and stuff.
So I know you are a triathlete as well. You've done the Ironman and you've completed a lot of, all of these, the most excruciating physical things on your body you've done. So what keeps you going? I think because whenever I've spoken to you, you're like, okay, I'm just completing my training, or I'm just finishing my swim, or I'm going for a cycling expedition right now, I'm trekking. What is keeping you motivated every single day, every single morning to do this? Because I know you've been training for almost 7 years now, and eventually it all comes down to those 60 days when you're actually at the at the almighty Mount Everest. So what has been your motivation during all? Because I think all of us who have been watching this, we tend to at some point in time feel demotivated. We keep forgetting what the long-term goal that we're trying to achieve. So what keeps you going?
So I don't remember when, but maybe 5-6 years ago, I decided that every year or every few years when I was giving up on materialism, that I would keep chasing goals, I would keep targeting goals which might need a lot of money but which cannot be just bought. You need to invest a lot of hard work and time, because that chase brings a lot of fun, the journey which comes with
Absolutely,
it. So
yeah.
I enjoy this process, and I haven't done a lot, so this is just the beginning. And I did one Ironman triathlon, Ironman 70.3 distance triathlon just now. And about motivation, the thing is, my life is dependent on this. My life is at stake at Everest. Apart from a huge sum of money, like almost 50 lakh rupees, which if I don't raise, I take a loan or mortgage my parents' house.
Oh,
So money is important, but still, life is my priority.
Absolutely.
It's okay if I lose money, but I want to stay alive. So I have to put in the hard work, so that if anything goes wrong, I am prepared and at least I give my best. In mountains, there is no guarantee there can be an earthquake.
And there's no second chance, right?
Yeah, and there is no second chance for my life. To climb Everest, okay,
There could
maybe
be, yeah.
there could be. People might not sponsor me again or support me again, but I'll have to save on for 10 years, gather motivation, but it will get more difficult.
Correct.
And especially in our country where there is no awareness. In most European and North American countries, they know that 50% of the mountaineering expeditions are not successful. So
Okay.
they accept and they don't put that pressure. But in India, the reason a lot of Indians die, one is they go underprepared. That's why Indians have a bad name. So I have to raise the benchmark that I am not like that. I'll try to be better than them, if not as good as most of the Western climbers. So Indians don't go prepared and they have a lot of pressure, because this is a huge sum for foreigners, but even for Indians, it's a lot.
It's a
So
lot more, yeah.
I'll make sure that I don't bring a bad name to my country.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't think you will, but also for all of us, I mean, watching here, there might be some people who are motivated to probably try doing what you want to do, maybe like, scale the summit someday. What is the breakup of this 50 lakh, And that's the first question. Second question is, how are you actually going about raising the funds for it?
Okay, one thing I forgot to mention when you asked about motivation, even I feel demotivated a lot of times.
Oh, you do
So,
feel demotivated?
yeah, so when the lockdown happened, on 15th March, my Everest expedition was called off. I was like, okay, no problem. I know that the summit window comes only once a year, so I'll go in 2021.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, Ironman is happening in India, so I'll train for that and I'll do it more seriously. I was anyways gonna do it, but sort of for fun. That okay, I have been training for Everest, so I'll get through the Ironman race and just finish it. But I thought I would do it more seriously, dedicatedly. And on March 23rd, I registered for Ironman 70.3 triathlon happening in Goa. Morning 10 a.m. the registration started, and 10:01 I had the early bird slot. And on March 21st, I think the lockdown was announced for a few days.
Correct.
And it kept on increasing. So for
yeah.
70 days, I did not step out. I thought of buying a treadmill, but I thought already I'm crowdfunding for Everest, and I have a huge deficit. Can I invest in a treadmill? So for 1 month I was contemplating on the decision, and then everyone said no, it's okay. And then I thought, what if I have to sell the treadmill later to survive? Although my parents would feed me, but I was
Not dependent on
that. And I was exploring the worst case scenarios. And then I bought a treadmill which arrived 2 months later due to the lockdown. So I was the heaviest in my life during the pandemic. That was 56 kgs.
Okay.
56 or maybe 57. And then I started again from scratch after a 2.5, 3 month break. I couldn't get bikes because WHO said cycling is very good, and the demand surged and there were no
bikes available,
bicycles available. I got a resale bike.
I couldn't find one myself as well.
Yeah, so I got a resale one from 3,000 kilometers away.
Oh, wow.
I got an indoor trainer, and then swimming pools were closed. So I stay at this place which is like Goa, and some of my friends have pools at their place. So one of my friend, a family of doctors, were inviting me to swim at their place, and I was like, no, your life is more valuable than mine, so I cannot use your swimming pool. And they were like, no, your endeavor is far more important. None of us would use the pool, just you come and train there. So then I started swimming as well, and everything fell in place. And then the race was called off.
Oh, shit.
I thought I would train for it till October, do that race, and then again switch back to my 6 month Everest
Correct,
training plan.
correct.
And then just one day before I was switching back to my Everest training plan in October, I thought that why not just do it solo myself. I have the infrastructure like lake, sea, and a good highway, Western Express Highway, Mumbai Ahmedabad Highway. So I thought I can do it myself. I made a rough plan. I made 2-3 route options, and as my coach woke up in California, I emailed him that hey, I want to do this. I think I can do it. And my coach was not very enthusiastic or supportive, but he was like, it's okay, you can give it a try. It's not a real race. It's just treat it like another long training day.
Correct.
Although I kept the same timing, same distance, and same rules.
Sure.
And on World Mental Health Awareness Day, I did that just to motivate everyone that if I can do it without any resources, without having much money, just keep putting in the work and keep trying.
Yeah.
And it happened. So it motivated a lot of people. And then again, they thought that, oh no, it's too easy for you. But I gave them the example that I still had a belly when I was coming out of my swim in October, November, or during that Ironman. And then I came back to my Everest training. So many a time I feel demotivated. I have my low times. But it's the discipline which keeps us going, and just keep targeting one goal. Maybe register for a marathon or something.
So just smaller milestones to get to the big,
Yes,
to the big
yes, yes,
achievement.
yes. Like when I started running few years ago, I would think next street light, next street light. I think most runners would relate. I would when I started, I would walk till one temple, 1.2 kilometer away. I did not have fancy watches or Garmin or anything until 1.5 year ago. Now when people tell me that, hey, I don't have shoes, I tell them that I run barefoot. And the reason I love running, although I started for cycling, is because it is so minimalistic. I just get on my bike and drive 5 minutes away to a
Open road,
better road, open road, and I run. I don't need shoes. I don't need any gear. So back then I would just come home. I didn't even have a smartphone. I would see on the desktop key, okay, I ran from here to here, pin it. Okay, the distance must be 1.1 kilometer. I took this much time, so this much be the pace, and I would walk, and while coming I would decide ki tomorrow I'll run till there tomorrow. I was very unaware even back then, because now I know. Now when I use a coach and scientific training, I am able to progress and achieve goals in 3 months which would otherwise take 2 years with the right kind of guidance. But just start somewhere. So I started it just because I love myself and I want to live happily. So I thought that just take up one sport passionately which takes care of my health for the rest of my life. So I would tell everyone to just explore such passionate stuff.
Right. So actually coming to the cost, so what's the breakup of a 50 lakh, and how are you going about the fundraising also?
So one major expense is the summit permit. So if you go from China side, like Everest has two faces, north and south. Its tip is on the border between Nepal and China. So China has increased the permit fee to I think somewhere around 20,000 US dollars, and from Nepal side it is 11,000 US dollars just for the summit permit.
So
With
approximately 8 to 10 lakh is
yeah,
just the
8 to
summit.
10 lakh plus license officer plus base camp permit plus visa plus environment fee plus the route charges and everything. So it comes to a lot.
So you're going from the Nepal side.
Yes, I am going from the southern side because that is the traditional route which Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay took, and it's just that I like that route more. It's more adventurous. On the north side, they have better infrastructure. Like there is a road till the base camp.
Okay.
So it's just the 4-day climb, which also takes 2 months to acclimatize. And from either sides, it takes almost the same amount of money. The expedition operators, they charge us around 25 to 30 lakh rupees, the cheapest options. Most Western climbers go with Western companies with slightly better safety standards, and they charge 70 lakh, 80 lakh, starting to 1.52 crores.
So you're actually going minimalistic in your budget as well.
Yeah, like
Save your money.
let's say the cheapest one is for 21 lakh and I'm going for the 23 lakh option because but I'm not compromising on safety
safety, yeah.
anywhere. It's okay if I don't get any comfort. So I did a lot of research, and since I'm from the industry, I made the best choice that someone with whom at least 12, 13 of my Indian friends have climbed in the past few years and some others. So they charge us 25, in which a major chunk goes to the government for this permit fee. Then for 2 months, our logistics, our Sherpa, which comes with us to the summit, the base camp cooking staff and everything, because they are with us for 45 days. Then the gear, like 60 kg gear coming to the base camp. So porters, yaks, and there are n number of stuff. So but the major chunk is that when you buy a tour to go to anyone, so that's how you buy a Everest tour for 25 lakhs or something. Plus you need to have insurance, which is another $3,000 or so. So 2-3 lakh rupees. Then you need your personal gear. Even if you take a 2 crore package, they don't include your clothing or your gear, which is another 5 to 10 lakh rupees. And the reason it is so expensive is because your life and your organs are dependent on it. So it needs to be the best engineered and the lightest, because taking it up there is a chance, and the temperatures go to minus 60 degrees Celsius as well at times. During summer it might be around minus 50 when I go.
Right.
So everything has to be tested, and still people die. So 5 to 10 lakh for gear, and then your travel expenses. Then if you submit, there's a compulsory summit bonus which you have to give to your climbing Sherpa, which is another $1,500 to $2,000. So most of the people who work in Nepal, they hardly get any salaries, whatever.
So they rely on this as
on
their
tips
core.
and bonuses.
Right.
People ask me that why do you have to give $200 tip to someone? Because that is what
His
they
livelihood,
earn maybe in an year. And if you read the statistics, I read in one of the Lonely Planet editions, 82% of Nepal works on less than $2 a day, and out of that around 30% works on less than $1 a day. So for Indian rupees, 82% works on less than rupees 150 a day. And that's very less. And it's not like people climb Everest throughout the year. It's just in 2 months. Same with other mountains. It's just during summer, and some mountains also during autumn.
So how are you going about raising this money? I know you started the fundraiser on your website, and
Yes.
there's a buzz around that. But how are you going about doing it?
So since I am an IT engineer, I thought I would also bring those skills to you. So I wanted to learn. This is my MBA. So I created a campaign in Sangharsh Mission Mount Everest. And since many of my audience is also international, I explain it to them that Sangharsh is a Hindi word which means conquest or struggle.
Yeah.
And this is the journey of millennial Harsh from 0 feet near Mumbai to the highest point on earth. His Sangharsh. And that is a crowdfunding website. It has all my previous experience and details about what I'm planning to do, and I'm trying to raise funds from there. Also trying for
So
sponsorship.
how much have you raised so far, and how much more to go?
So I've raised around 18.5 lakh rupees via crowdfunding. Most of that was last year from my first circles and maybe some second circles. And my expense is above 50 lakh rupees. So I have raised some amount through sponsorship as well. So right now I think I am around 31 lakh rupees after one of the sponsors coming on board.
So you have 30 lakhs to go, basically.
Yeah, I have
No,
19 lakhs to go.
Okay.
But I am enjoying the journey. It is stressful, but the lessons which I am getting in this
It's
journey
exactly like
are
your MBA
worth
you
a lot,
spoke.
and the connections which I am making, meeting people like you, meeting a lot of interesting people,
Yeah.
and they encouraging me. They participating in the campaign. So even if they donate something as less as 500 rupees, it's a lot for me, because that might be a lot for them. Like if I tell you stories, the kind of people who have donated, there are people whom I have never spoken to, whom I have never met, have donated 2 lakh rupees, which is around $3,000. And it's just overwhelming for me. I'm anyways gonna do it some or the other way, although I cannot afford it, but I'm gonna do it. But when people are trying to support
It's a bigger motivator to
Yeah,
you.
it's the main thing which I get is motivation from it.
Yeah. You spoke briefly about, uncertainty and the risk, and, there's a lot of fear, like, someone going up there, because again, there is not a very high, mortality rate, but, we do hear of many stories of people never coming back or like losing hands, legs, or whatever. God forbid, in the eventuality something does happen, how have you prepared yourself? Because of course, while you're physically preparing for this expedition, I'm guessing there's a lot of also mental preparation happening to acclimatize your mind, plus your family, I think very importantly, to any eventuality which might not be favorable, right? So have you had that talk? Have you has that sit down talk with your family and said,
No,
this is real, this is real
we did
now?
not have that conversation, but
Right.
I hope that they don't have that fear. The reason they won't have it is because I have that experience. I did not go and decide to climb Everest and implement it within an year, like many people do. For many people, their first Himalayan peak is Everest. So I invested a lot of years. In fact, I pushed Everest sometimes. People ask me that how longer are you gonna wait? I was like, no, I want to gain more experience. I want to climb some more mountains, do more courses. And for my parents to prepare, I watched at least 50 documentaries and movies
Okay.
about Everest with them. Like
Okay.
while eating dinner, I just put on YouTube or Netflix. So they know, now they know everything that okay, अच्छा तू कैंप 3 जाएगा, वहाँ से ऑक्सीजन रहेगा, वो कैंप 4 पे ऐसा रहेगा, वहाँ जाके वापस आएगा. So they know, and they have faith. And second is, I am very responsible and I take calculated risk. So they know that hopefully nothing will go wrong. Like now, because of technology, because of experience, things are becoming safer. So it's not like I'm trying to go and attempt it in winter or something. So yeah, still things can go wrong, but whatever is in my hand is being taken care of. Like I'm trying to get the best of best gear, doing my research well, doing my training, selecting a good operator, a good Sherpa, a good experienced Sherpa, making sure my supplemental oxygen and all safety is in place. So rest, if something goes wrong, that might as well go wrong while sleeping in a bathroom. So
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
this is a risk which I can afford, at least right now at this age when I don't have any dependence on me.
Yeah, yeah. And what does life after Everest look like for you? Because I'm guessing this expedition is just the beginning of
Yeah, it's
maybe like
just
a
a stepping
lifetime of.
stone. It's just a stepping stone. Like for me, since it's been so long with this project, for me and even my close ones, my friends, I have already climbed Everest, and we are just waiting to experience the journey physically. But in future, I'll be climbing more mountains. In future, I might be able to do more for the causes. For now, I'm like focusing on myself and my endeavor. And I might also study more. I'm writing a book about my journey,
I
Sangharsh.
was going to ask you, are you going to make a movie or documentary around
Yeah,
your.
there is a
Oh, you're
documentary as
planning that as
well,
well?
and book also. I'll be very honest, the primary reason, I know that maybe only 50 of my friends and family would read it, but it would add to my profile, and I'm planning to use it to get scholarship to study more. Since all my friends and exes are in US studying right now, I might go there to study, but not as an engineer for sure. Maybe something in outdoors, like MSc in outdoor education, or maybe marketing. Because now, after spending a lot of time at home during pandemic, I realized that maybe I can live in some mountain town like Colorado or in Vancouver, and I can train Monday to Friday, ski on the weekends, do a boring job as well. And when I am in a boring job or in corporate, I'll be able to inspire many more. I'll be able to reach more people and maybe even implement all what I have learned here in the corporate
And
world.
make them find that happiness you spoke about, that finding happiness in whatever they're doing, right?
Yes.
And
You never know, I might end up working at Shibang.
yeah, of course. I mean, you have an MBA in
But
marketing, though we
yeah,
don't
yeah,
have too many
I'm just
MBAs here,
kidding. I would
but
never work at Shibang because I value the friendship more. So I'll keep collaborating. I'll be an ambassador for Shibang. But I know that if I take up a full-time job like yours, then I might not be able to climb. I'll have to support
or maybe
someone
I'll start
else.
climbing with you
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
leave my job over here.
I am
Also.
inviting you to Everest Base Camp.
I would love to come there. So actually, last question, when we spoke about solar as well, right? That how can we as individuals start implementing a bit of renewable energy in our own lives? Like, what are the small steps that we can start taking from a solar perspective, which of course, when we all start doing small bits, it sort of amplifies into something much bigger. Yeah.
Like the main thing which we can do is switch to solar, and I would suggest not exactly about solar, but just make more thoughtful choices and be more aware. And about switching to solar, like there is no reason to say no. Maybe for some people right now the investment is a huge
Yeah.
aspect because the payback time might be
Yeah,
between
because solar
5
we
to
know
7
costs a lot of money to get a panel and everything.
Yes. So the thing which I am doing, I'm trying to create more awareness. Thus, the industry will grow. It will create more employment, more competitive pricing.
Yeah.
Now there are financing options coming in. Even in Mumbai, we have them that
Yeah.
they will install the solar panel at your place. The module manufacturer or the distributors, and the same amount which you pay for your electricity bill, you will pay them in installments. So we
Okay.
are just trying to create that industry with the help of awareness and branding, such that people start making their devices more efficient. It's not just that solar panels or energy is not efficient. Nobody asks that why does your light or fan is not efficient or your machine is not efficient. The most simple thing is to switch to solar. That is what I would suggest. I don't own a house of my own, or I would switch as well. But anyways, I travel full time, and when I go and build something somewhere, I'll do my bit as well.
So since you have the audience now, anything you want to say to the viewers if it comes to like even contributing to your expedition, or anything like a last parting message which you can probably.
So check out my website sangarsh.co. It has all the information, and if they can contribute, then it would go a long way for me. The smallest bits would go a long way for me. And even if they don't, if they take something from the journey and go for a run or plan to climb Everest, that would be a bigger win for me. So that is all I would like to say.
Yeah, so I think just a big thank you to Harsh. Like, I think we all are quite inspired by what he's doing. We have spoken about him in the past on Shebang as well, and we will continue chronicling his journey, in everything that we do. And of course, we wish him all the best and all the safety for while you go up there. And we're looking forward to that call, when you are on the summit, saying, okay, I've reached over here, and we can't wait to see that picture of you with the India flag sort of
with Shebang flag.
with the Shebang flag also unfold at the summit. I know I keep getting goosebumps every time you say it.
Yeah,
so I think we all are very excited to see that. And I know
thank you for having me. So actually, to be very honest, my plan was I would just give a surprise visit at the Shebang office after I come back from the summit. And for the listeners who don't know, this is the first time we are meeting.
Yeah, it's the first time
so
we met,
connected on LinkedIn and we never met. He supported me a lot, Shebang supported me a lot, but we never met. And my idea was to meet just after Everest with the flag, like just gift him the flag. But this happened.
So yeah. So again, all the best, Harsh.
Thank you.
And we wish you, I think safety is of paramount importance.
Yes. And we'll do this once again after I come back.
I think we're looking forward to doing a part 2 to know what your stories are from Mount Everest, and we're looking forward to that. Thank you so much. Thank you.